This video is sponsored by the Design Mechanism, the makers of Mythras. Mythras is a registered trademark of the Design Mechanism Inc., used with permission. All rights reserved. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Mythras, which is a fantasy role-playing game designed by the Design Mechanism. As you probably saw at the beginning when I did the introduction. I hope you're all looking good and feeling fine. And I am joined tonight by the usual threesome that have been trying to do quite well, I think, in this series of adventures. They are pursuing the story, the childhood story, the scary story of Sewer Jack, and they are getting closer and closer to the grand finale. So hopefully they will find out all the answers tonight. And just before you introduce yourself, can I just say that it was really interesting hearing everybody's thoughts about the adventure last week, you know, about what was going on. And I will say this.
None of you are right.
No. One of you, and I'm not saying who it is, has got it exactly correct.
It'll be me, and I can't remember what I said.
I can't remember what anybody else said.
Well, I actually went back and had a listen.
I never take notice of what Medivac says.
And Mr. Pickles, can you wear something yellow next time? Because everybody's got yellow.
Maybe he was wearing yellow when he turned up an hour ago to play.
Yeah. Did he really?
He came into my stream and said, "Is it cancelled tonight? Because I'm sat in roll 20."
I forgot completely about your time
Has been weird people from UK who
we're the Time Lords
to do with their plot.
No, because
Lords.
I think America goes back tomorrow.
That's what
Canada everybody does it around the world. It's just that we don't all sync up and do it at the same, which would be logical, but we don't.
I like to say that we're the first.
Yeah. Or the last, depending which way you look at it. Okay, then, without further ado, I'll allow the players an opportunity to introduce who they are and who they will be playing tonight.
Hi guys, I'm Chugwager. The character that I play is called Gulliver, the youngest member of the party. Bit scrawny, ginger head. His current role is that of the sorcerer. He is an apprentice sorcerer in the Order of the Kraken. Sorcery is one of the most powerfulest magic using feats on Odys. Unfortunately, Gulliver isn't very good at it. His particular order, the Order of the Kraken, the Blue Order, specializes in spells involving around communication, transportation, and teleportation. He has the ability to shape his spells. He can expend shaping points, which allow him to alter certain aspects of the spells. He can change the range, the intensity or the magnitude, number of targets that it will affect. He can even combine several spells into a single cast. Although doing so is a lot harder than just casting a single one. He also has spells from the folk magic school. He refers to them as his cantrips, very fast to cast, although their feats aren't as good as that of the sorcery spells. But, in a pinch, they can still save lives. And that's me, Gulliver. I am going to pass on, seeing he has his mic already unmuted and ready to go, to Mr. Pickles.
I'm Mr. Pickles, I guess. And in this game, I played our theist, Bartleby Fumus. He was once a bard, but his hands were mangled, and now he has joined the priesthood. Well, it was long ago that he did that, so it's all part of his back history. He mostly specializes in prayers with folk magic and miracles with theism that revolve around moonlight, healing, or energy overall. A lot of his spells have to do with removing fatigue, not really giving fatigue, just a lot of removing things, curing disease or poison. As a theist, he's given a bonus pool of devotion points to spend for his miracles, whereas he can't really change things like Gulliver's sorcery. He has a little bonus pool that he can perform his miracles, and his folk magic uses just his regular pool of magic points. Bartleby is also known for his knowledge of monsters and history of this local land, and is somewhat involved with the lower aspects of the impoverished area of the city. Those are his general knowledge pools. Otherwise, he's just Bartleby Fumus, kind of a cowardly priest. Throwing it on over to Medivac.
Why, thank you, Bartleby. I'd never ever think of you as a cowardly priest.
I would.
I'm Medivac, and I play Hazra Khan. He is a nomad. He's from the northern steppes of Odess, so he's from this continent. He's fallen in with this wonderful group here who solve mysteries. We like solving mysteries. He is a scout, a tracker, a forager. He also is a member of the Brotherhood, which is a group that actively goes out and records any changes in any area, and how people affect those areas, and how the balance must be maintained, and so on and so forth, which is very, very important. Last adventure, he had something happen to him which he really needs to sit down and talk to Bartleby about. It's very, very deep. And he's a little bit excited, worried. We shall see. And with that, I shall pass on to Inworlds, our inglorious leader.
I'll still kill you all, by the way. Just
Are you, Medivac, are you really drinking Carling with a Lucasade chaser?
Yes, indeed. I need the glucose. Is there glucose in these days? No, it has. It's got stuff in it. There we go.
Zero sugar.
It's good.
Zero sugar.
Just to let you know, I have updated all your character sheets on the bit that appears below us. All your spells and skills are up, and I didn't realise that Gulliver plays the flute.
Yeah.
We played together.
We were playing a band together.
Yeah, what's it called?
Me and
Chaz and Dave. Gully and Bart.
It's been so good to you.
Yeah.
I had like one fan.
Yeah, it's Ginger and Mangled.
Excellent. So the party is enjoying solving the latest mystery. Hengist, their tank, early on took sick to his bed and has not been seen for several days. And apparently he's got some kind of infection.
It was from when he got by that man in the cemetery. It's the Galloping Mudblot.
Yes.
In the first one when we had
a late night in the cemetery. He was a vicar.
Who was that other woman that we played? Who was
Ica Duff?
Ica, yeah, it's when
Ica
we
MacDuff.
went on hers, and he got by the
ghoul.
by the ghoul at the
No,
beginning.
they weren't ghouls.
No, they were just
grave robbers.
grave robbers. Yeah, and he got bit and got galloping knob rot, and that's
Flares
what's
up
gone.
every now and again.
And his knob's been galloping ever since then.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So so the party has been sort of like pulled into this via Bartleby Fumers, who was accosted by an elderly lady of the street. And who was asked Bartleby to look into the death of her daughter. Once the confusion about names had been sorted, then Bartleby convinced Gulliver, Hazra, and Hengist, as of then, to investigate the death. Now, the death has turned into another death and another death, and strange yellow eyes haunting a lady who has returned to Lindo after some years, decades ago, that she left with her father and has come back. She's a wealthy merchant, and she's come back to their old house, and it was it's sort of like 2 doors down from Hengist's house, who lives with the gentry on Noble Hill in Lindo. And basically the party was asked to go up and open a door that was locked. Unfortunately, no amount of brawn could actually open it, and combining their magics, Bartleby's to see and Gulliver to unlock, they managed to unlock the room, and behind it stood a whole load of documents, dead animals, strange spells that really and truly put the party at unrest. Anyway, they headed off, and they've investigated 2 murders before the lady of the house, Matilda, sort of like came back and was being chased by somebody. They carefully took her back to the house, and Hazra climbed a tree and kept guard when Bartleby went to sleep, and Gulliver went off and had a meeting with his mentor, where he found out some Daniela Duncan, found out some really scary truths about what might be going on. Hazra, while he was up his tree, totally camouflaged, actually heard a window break and dived into the house. Gulliver quickly followed once Bartleby had been got out of bed, and they found the dead body of do you know the relationship to Matilda?
Of which one?
Of the dead body.
Wasn't it her father?
Yeah, that's all right then. Yeah, her father. Hazra went out and had a look at the grounds. Unfortunately, the bundling city guards had made a mess of everything. However, at the end of last adventure, Hazra found a little piece of paper. He looked at it, but his literacy skills are not that good, and he brought it up to Bartleby and Gulliver, who looked at it.
I'm not there yet. Remember.
Yeah. Sorry, Bartleby saw it and managed to decipher very sort of like a bad scrawl, almost like a child's writing, the words "All my love, Jack." Now, Sewer Jack is a story that parents tell their children over the decades to scare them, but the party are somewhat worried now, because it almost like appears that Sewer Jack is not actually a story, and there might be some evil at work within Lindo. And without that further ado, I think we will crack straight onto it. So yeah, just so we can recap, where is everybody at the moment?
So we left Gulliver with he had just talked to Danielle Duncan, and she had told him to go back to the Grimes household straight away.
Got ya.
That's where we left. That's where we'd left Gulliver. I forgot my name then.
Okay.
Oh,
Wine
dear.
was to me.
I'm in the bedroom at the Grimes house with Mr. Bartleby. I've just shown him the note,
Yeah.
which I was like, God, read this, please, Bartleby. What does he say? He said it was about the all my love, Jack.
Yeah. That's
And at that point, Hazard will look at Bartleby and I'll be, Bartleby, my friend, while we are waiting for Gulliver to arrive, because I'm sure he's on his way, I don't know how to say this. I heard a voice in my head.
Well, what kind of voice?
What? It's. I will tell you what she said to me. She said, Hezra, may the blessing of my light be with you. And the answer that you seek lay outside the western wing window. And there's nobody in the room that said this. It seemed to just appear in my inner voice, in my thoughts. Could this be Amriel talking to me? It's when she said, "May the blessings of my light," I thought of you instantly.
Well, that does sound like Amriel, except she only uses images. She never speaks to any of us. I suppose you could be one of her chosen that she actually communicates with. That would...
No, I do not believe I'm worthy of such a thing.
She works in mysterious ways, Hazra. You might be one of her chosen warriors.
Oh,
Just like good Benjamin.
that
He's more
would
Meryl's chosen.
That would be interesting, and I still don't feel I'm worthy, but it is a burden I must carry if it is true.
I don't think I showed you the map last week.
No, it's very nice.
Really is.
So this thing here is not a crypt. That's a four-poster bed. So you're looking down from it. This is a doorway out to this balcony. This is the first floor, and one of the windows, say this one, was the one that people came down. This is the left-hand wing of the house. So what's Gulliver up to?
So Gulliver's been once he's left the Order of the Kraken, he's making his way as quickly as his gimpy leg will allow him to get back up to Gentry Hill and to the Grimes residence.
Okay then. So there's obviously a city guard around this place at the moment, and Matilda is looking very sort of like shocked. Her father is now dead. If you remember, he sort of like had his throat ripped out and everything, and there was that the revenge was written in the blood over the bedstead, the head of the bed. And there's various, if you remember, there was the girl crying outside who saw it, that Bartleby, I think you tried to seduce or talk to and sort of like have a nice chat. And after a while, they sort of like you get taken downstairs back into sort of like the entrance hall, where there seems to be everybody is just sort of like gathering. And it's at this point, here's Hazra already. Let's just delete him.
Delete him.
It's at this point that Gulliver arrives. Not that big. Gulliver arrives, and there's various sort of like people going around here, there, and everywhere, and they're sort of like those. They're not comfortable chairs. They're sort of like low benches that you sort of like perch on in various places, and you sort of like sit down. And there seems to be quite a hum of activity as people are going round. You see sort of like Bartleby, some people that you know that are from your church that are almost like dedicated healers, but you sort of like see that they go upstairs and they come back down with that ashen face, and sort of like slowly shaking their heads, and there's various servants crying or whimpering and sobbing. And after a while sat there, Matilda comes down, and she, if you remember beforehand, she had almost like a dressing gown on, and now she seems to be completely dressed, and she sort of like walks past you all, and shortly after goes down one of the corridors, and then shortly after that her maid comes up to you all and sort of like curtsies very politely to you and says, Mistress Matilda would like to see you all in her study, if that's at all possible.
Yes, that's fine. When we've been waiting, can Gulliver, in sort of like hush tone, so that people are coming in and out, can he tell Bartleby and Hazra of what Danielle Duncan said to him about the history of Geryon?
So just sum it up now, so everybody's on the same page, and people on the stream as well.
Okay, so Geryon Grime was the father of Melissa, very protected of her. Didn't like any of these would-be suitors getting too close to her, and was quite prepared to use force to maybe stop them getting hold of the family heirlooms. He was also a sorcerer that of the Order of the Lich, which, although isn't an evil order, some of their spells are, well, the process that they use isn't quite to everybody's liking. He was also a merchant, and he was looking to expand his merchant sphere of influence in Lindo, but unfortunately he was going about it the wrong way. He was actually using his power of sorcery to aid him. One night he just vanished from Lindo, took with him Melissa and his servants. Rumor has it that he left by a boat. Although for several months after he'd left, there was rumors of yellow eyes being seen in the Grimes household and on Gentry Hill as well. Okay,
so you sort of like bring everybody up to speed, and you're taken into what appears to be some kind of conference room. It looks like it's probably where a lot of merchant trade is done and completed. You do notice that there's still quite a few dust cloths lying around on the floor. It looks like it's been prepped for action, but not actually completed. And Matilda is up at this end, and as you walk in, she has her back to you. She's sort of like got her arms behind her back as if they're clasped, so she's sort of like, she stood quite defiantly, at the head of the table, and you sort of like come in, and the maid sort of like gestures to the chairs, and then she waits at one of the entrances, and then Matilda just says, "That'll be all," and she sort of like says, "Yes, mistress," and sort of like walks out, and Matilda stands perfectly still for several minutes, and she doesn't actually turn to look at you when she's talking. She's almost like keeping her head looking completely away from you, and she says, "Tonight our household has received a great loss. My father was a brilliant man, caring, loving, and even more so, a wonderful merchant. I am at a loss who would have done this to him. He has no enemies at all. He is caring. He has integrity. He is honest. Who would have done anything like this to him?"
Maybe they weren't getting at him directly. Maybe it was somebody else they were angry with.
They?
Well, someone.
It is a worry. She turns round and sort of like walks, and she sits at the head of the table here, and she doesn't relax in the chair. She keeps very much bolt upright and very defiant and very much now in control, although you do see that her eyes are red from crying and sobbing. And she says, "We have no enemies. We have only arrived back at Lindo a few days ago. We are honest, and we are a well-established merchant guild."
My lady, do you know anybody by the name of Jack?
She sort of like looks puzzled at you and says, "No. Why?"
No, it's something that I found outside the building while I was looking for tracks for whoever could have done this horrendous thing.
If you have...
Mr. Bartleby has the details. I cannot read the script. I'm only a novice.
If you have information about this killing, this murder, then I think it's only wise that you hand it over to the city guards.
I do believe, my lady, that we will do, but we wanted to ask you about it first, just to see if there was any way we could move forward with our own investigations unhindered by the city guard and bring this to a quick resolution.
Gentlemen, I think a quick resolution is what is needed for this. And she pushes a chair back, and she walks across to what seems to be some kind of cabinet in the corner, and she seems to bring a key from sort of like inside her corset and brings it out, and it's on a chain, and she unlocks it and reaches inside and brings something out that she pops on a small table, and then closes the door once more and locks it with the key and sort of like drops it back into her dress. And she comes over, and she seems to have a bag, a money bag. It's made out of what appears to be quite orangey velvet. It's quite garish, but at the same time very fine.
Gulliver will say, "There's no need to offer us money to find out what's happening. We promised Hengist that we would help."
this now goes against all promises in order to ensure that this murderer is tracked down and actually disposed of, or sent, she corrects herself, sent to the appropriate authorities. I would like to propose that you are now in the service of myself, and this, and she sort of like plonks the bag onto the table, is my way of ensuring that this hideous crime is solved as quickly and as possible.
That's very nice of you, but I think it's obvious now that whoever is doing this is, well, they want your family dead.
My family dead?
Well,
for what reason would anybody want my family dead?
I'm not sure yet, but I think it has something to do with Gary and Grime.
My great grandfather?
Yes, I think it's something to do with him. I've learned that he was also, as well as a very good merchant, not unlike your father, but he was also a sorcerer of some renown.
I talked to the captain of the guard. They proposed that there is a murderer on the loose that started in the slums of this town and is slowly making their way up through the rather merchant guilds and areas of commerce, and now it would appear that they've come to, or he or she or it has come to Noble Hill.
But there's one thing that's linking all the murders, and something that's rather troubling, because everybody so far who's been murdered, well, they resemble you.
I fail to realise how my late father resembles me in any way.
No, the people that have been murdered, not the person that's murdering. The people that have been murdered. First of all, there was the girl in the slums.
Master Gulliver, you have come late to the house. My father was murdered last night. In the bed as he slept, and the word revenge scrawled using my father's own blood across the wall. He bears no resemblance to me, save maybe his surname. How does that fit into your cunning plot?
Maybe the murders aren't connected. Maybe the previous murders, and then the night that you and your lady in waiting were followed.
She sort of like looks puzzled, and then she says, "Gentlemen, in the pouch there is 3,000 silver pieces. As an incentive, I am willing to offer a further 5,000 silver pieces. However," and she puts her finger up and hand up to stop you speaking, "however, for every day that passes, this additional sum of money will be reduced by 1,000 silver pieces. Gentlemen, time is ticking, and I wish the murderer of my late father to be found and dealt with in the proper way." And she sort of like leans down on the table and says, "Do I make myself clear?"
Yes.
You do indeed, my lady.
Yes.
She then sort of like straightens herself up and says, I have things to attend to. My servant will show you out. And she turns and walks quite briskly, leaving the coinage on the table. And she sort of like goes out the room and sort of like heads off down one of the corridors. And shortly later, her maid appears and says, whenever you're ready to leave, kind sirs, I can show you the way to the door.
Certainly, my good lady. If you wouldn't mind giving us a few moments so we can discuss things amongst ourselves.
And she sort of like looks a bit wary, as if she's had some kind of instruction, and she says, of course. And she sort of like steps slightly away from the door. You think she's probably just sort of like perched here. You don't think she's gone away or anything. She just sort of like is stood there.
Sorry, we should we've been all up late, and many of us haven't gotten the proper sleep. Hazra, Gulliver, perhaps we should leave and discuss things elsewhere.
I think that's probably best.
About your wise words.
Yeah, and the maid comes back and sort of like shows you your way out, and you notice that as you go down the drive and through the front gates, so those wrought iron gates, that there seems to be two city guards now on guard duty at the end. And just outside there seems to be, even though it's early morning, as you sort of like go out of the gates, you do notice that there's various lights on Noble Hill or Gentry Hill, and there's almost like you catch that look of curtains or tapestries or whatever flipping backwards and forwards as if somebody was peering out, then suddenly sees you coming out, and then quickly the curtain just sort of like falls back into place. Whereabouts are you planning on heading?
We're going to be heading out of the off Gentry Hill and down into the lower class area that we're normally in.
Okay.
We'll probably have the discussion. There won't be many people on the street at this time, will there?
No, the only things that you see are maybe the city guards going around in partners. If you remember them coming, they sort of like beefed up their role and their presence in Lindo, not after the first murder, but after the second one, because it was very close to the actual gates, and these gates down here, if you remember. Yeah, so you can sort of like wander down.
Yeah, we'll wander about, and as we wander down, we'll discuss what's happened in the evening and come up with a plan.
Yeah, go for it.
So, Gulliver will start then.
Well, Gulliver, what have you found out? Because you are the most wise of us.
I told you what I found out. Well, what Danielle Duncan said about it. I don't know. As I was coming back, I was thinking of it all in my head and what could have maybe happened. And I mean, it seemed that Garion was almost like experimenting with things. That down underneath the house, there was all those cages and the writings on the desk. Well, it wasn't normal magic.
Do you think he was experimenting with people?
I think maybe, I don't know. I think maybe it eventually got that way. I think to begin with he was just using animals, but then, well, you know how protected he was of Melissa,
And I don't know. Maybe in the end, he started to experiment on her would-be suitors. What better way to get them out of the picture?
That much is
Coming
true.
they would have been coming to the house anyway, wouldn't they?
Mm.
And I don't know. It just seemed weird that all of a sudden he left, even though it looked like he had a good undertaking for this new business venture, and then just one night he got up and he left. It was almost as if he was, well, he had to leave the city.
But it's almost like somebody found out about him, you think, and perhaps told him to leave.
I was thinking more that maybe the experiments that he was doing, maybe they went wrong, or he lost control.
But what about these yellow eyes? Because you say he left, but then after he left, these yellow eyes were seen about his house, which is very unsettling.
I think
Was this perhaps one of those experiments that maybe had broken loose, or you're a magician. You.
I think that's what he was. I think that's what he was running from. I think whatever he was doing, he'd lost control. Or I don't know. Or maybe he had tried to summon something using, I don't know, sacrifices or the blood of something. I don't know. And then whatever it was had started to track his family.
So maybe because of his own
Because they wanted revenge for what had been done.
Mm.
And that's why Sewer Jack hadn't been heard of for such a long time. And no murders had taken place because Garion had gone. He had gone to another place. But then maybe he died. But just because he's dead doesn't mean that whatever was after him didn't want revenge anymore. And when Matilda came back, that's when the thing came back as well, tracking them.
And Matilda looks a lot like Melissa, doesn't she?
Yes. And so did the girl in the docks.
That's right.
The flower girl, and the merchant's daughter.
But why kill the father then? Is that just a simple, I will end your line by root and stem? Or
That's the one that doesn't make. That's the one that doesn't make sense. What was said? Did anybody see who had done it? Was there any mention of yellow eyes?
nobody saw from what I recall. Mr. Bartleby, did anybody say anything to you?
It was difficult to get much information out of the grieving people. We got this note. I'll pass that over to Gulliver if we haven't already shared that.
But the murder doesn't match the other ones. The other murders, no. there was
They were torn limb from limb, and
there was anger. There was lots of anger.
Right.
In the other ones. There was rage.
That's right. This is more personal. This is more there for a personal reason rather than any kind of rage.
Felt a lot like personal rage to me, writing with blood on the wall. Gotta be really angry or sending a message, don't you? To play with people's blood.
Definitely, rather than just mutilating the body beyond any recognition. He wanted whoever found the body to know what had been done and why it had been done.
You have healing knowledge, Bartleby. What did you find out about the body?
Most certainly dead.
I remember that roll.
His throat was pretty much bitten out.
Bitten or cut?
Or torn.
I want to say bitten. By like a large animal, bigger than a wolf, maybe. And whatever did this jumped out of the window, it looked like. From a second story, or from a first floor.
But any of that could have been staged.
When I checked the floor in the room, there was like a dragging, walking, like he was dragging a foot as he walked towards the bed. No, was it away to the window? Whichever, but one leg was dragging or shuffling through the room.
So we're saying that somebody climbed up, got through the window, ripped out his throat, but then was disturbed, startled, and then they jumped from a second story window.
Dropped a note.
That's right. The dragging was to the window. And yes, there was a note. I found a note. I could not see the tracks because the guards, unfortunately, had encompassed the whole area and were destroying.
Where did you find the note?
It was out of the window and heading to the west side. Towards the gate.
If you're going to leave
the fence.
Well, if you're going to leave a note to let people know who's done it, you don't leave it outside a window or by off chance that somebody would see it and pick it up.
To be fair, if it
picked it up, you would leave it somewhere near the body.
No, Gulliver. If this person had then just jumped from the window to escape, and maybe this note has fallen out of hers, whatever's pocket onto the floor, he wouldn't be none or she wouldn't be none the wiser as they sped away to flee what they had done.
What was the note written
in? You Bartleby, could you perhaps answer this?
I'll pass the note over. It's a bit wet and smudged, but...
What? When you say what it's written in, as in what language?
No, is it ink?
Yeah, but it's not in blood or anything.
Right.
It looks like it's been done with a quill, but it's quite. It's not. It's almost like child's writing or somebody who's just learning how to write. There's not the flow. There's not those elegant swirls on it that anybody who's proficient at writing would be doing. It's almost as if it's just straight lines.
Written by Hazra.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody who maybe even can't hold a quill properly.
Yeah, that
Could it have been?
Yeah. So you seem to have a large amount of possibilities about what's happening. So how are you? What's your course of action, therefore, to sort of like, if that's what you all think is happening, what's your course of action to start investigating that, or trying to figure out whether or not it's true?
Well, the others might have other ideas. That's what Gulliver has come, said what he's been thinking on his way up.
What I'd like to do is head from the outer wall west and see if we can find any tracks into where they lead.
Okay, so
because that's the direction he jumped out the window and went, wasn't it?
Yeah, so you'll have to head back up to Noble Hill. So that's something. Now, also remember, Hazra, that you haven't slept through the night. You did your fatigue roll earlier on, which took you up to that time. But if you want to go back up to Noble Hill now, or Gentry Hill, and actually look at that, then it will take you time to get back up there and to go around and have a look. But it will mean that you will not sleep, and so you will need another fatigue roll.
Yes.
Yeah, an endurance.
Endurance roll.
Yeah. If that's what you wish to do.
Bartleby, my friend, how are you feeling? Would you like to rest or sleep, or are you okay?
I got a decent amount of rest. I could always go for more, but I think, that's the only direction I could think of that we need to go is following
the west. So yes, I will go to the west fence gates, iron gates, whatever they were, or walls, and I'll risk it and follow that. That's
okay.
Right.
Bartleby, your spells on Hazard would have worn off by now because the scene has changed several times, so they won't actually be on. So Hazard's going back to the house to investigate. What about Gulliver and Bartleby?
Gulliver's going to say, I don't think I can be much use out here, to be honest with you. I'm going to go back to the order, and tomorrow morning I'm going to go. I'm going to go to the docks. I'm hoping that the wave quest is in berth, and that I can maybe have a word with Captain Seatide. He might know. He might have known what was happening with Garion's merchants deal, stuff like that normally, especially on the trade routes. It'd be interesting to find out what type of deal Garion was trying to do, and with whom.
It does sound like a good direction. Sounds like a very good direction.
It could be. It's the revenge that it doesn't. The murder of Matilda's father is the odd one. It doesn't make sense.
So, Gulliver, are you going to just head to the harbour, or are you going back to...
I'm not going to head to the harbour now. Gulliver's going to, because it's about 3:00 in the morning, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, so Gulliver's going to go back to the order, and he's going to try to grab a few more hours sleep, and then before he goes, he's going to pop by the library and see whether or not Daniel Duncan has managed to come up with anything else, and then if not, he's going to head down to the docks to see whether or not the wave quest is birthed.
Okay, and what about Bartleby? What's Bartleby's plan of action going to be?
Could I have cast a miracle of the perseverance again before Hazra goes up the hill?
Yes, yeah, by all means.
Okay, that's what I'd like to do is cast perseverance on him.
Yeah,
right here.
Yeah, so just reduce the power, your spell points or devotion pool.
Gotcha.
There's no need to. So I'll just roll it just in case it's a fumble.
Big money.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And so that's on you then, Hazra, before you leave. Is there anything else that Bartleby would like to do in this time?
I don't think there's anything that I can do. So I'm going to go get some more rest, finish out the night, and then try and meet up with Hazra or Gulliver in the morning. Okay,
then. So Gulliver and Bartleby, you head off back to your abodes to catch up with some sleep. Hazra, you head back up towards Gentry Hill and Noble Hill and the house. As you get closer, you do notice that there's quite a city guard presence. It becomes very apparent that somebody dying in the slum does not have the same impact on city guards as the somebody being murdered on Gentry Hill at all. And as you sort of like make your way, retracing your step, you sort of like approach the house, and the two guards who let you out beforehand are on guard duty. They're on the outside of the wrought iron gate. and the gate is shut behind them. What's your plan of action?
My plan is to literally say to the guards, I'm going to have a look around the wall to see if I can pick up any tracks of what came in here. And with that, I will go off to the west side. And my whole intention is I want to find a pathway. If I can't find tracks, brilliant.
Okay,
Leading.
yeah, because you sort of like go up to the city guard and sort of like, so they're blocking your entrance to the house. And what are you saying to them?
Hello, my friends. I'm coming. We are under the employ of Lady Matilda, and I'm going to go have a look at the western side of the wall to see if I can find any tracks or anything.
So are you skirting around the outer side of
the outer side?
Yeah,
yes.
well,
I don't want to go inside the wall. I want to go just on the outside.
Yeah, and the guards sort of like look you up and down, and sort of like look a bit strange at you, and then just says, "Be gone, go off. There's no place for you here," and sort of like shoos you off.
So thank you very much.
Yeah, you get to the corner of the wrought iron gate, and then of the fencing, and then that backs onto another sort of like estate. So from the front of the road, that walking down the road, it's just sort of like accommodation after accommodation after accommodation. After some time and walking around, getting some mighty strange looks from people, you're very much a man of the countryside, and you lack the etiquette to actually behave in the right way, especially even in Lindo itself is difficult, but when you're on Gentry Hill and there's quite a few people that sort of like look out the window as you sort of like walk around with your spear and everything, and you eventually manage to sort of like find, after having to go a long way, even past Hengist's house, to sort of like double back on yourself, and you suddenly become very much aware that Matilda's house backs onto the back of another house, and there's the wrought iron gate, wrought iron fencing round that. So at the back of her house there's the gate, and then beyond that is the sort of like the grounds of a second house. There doesn't seem to be, you can sort of like, you're looking at the end of the street, sort of like looking down, and you can see that it's almost like the same right the way down, as if one the houses on the opposite side are sort of like facing the other way. So it's literally on to another one.
Because my theory was that this thing, creature, man, woman, had jumped over this, had jumped out the window, ran across her lawn, gone over this fence, and if it's gone into somebody else's property, I want to try to. Could I see Matilda's house from the fence that I'm standing at, or
is it the plan to go to the house, the front door of the house that will be back?
No, not the front door. No, I just want to see where the western window is, Matilda's house. Try to plot where the tracks would have been up to the fence, and where that thing would have come over the fence and landed. If that's the case, I want to then go over the fence of the garden it's in and just have a quick look around. I don't want to do anything else but have a quick look around, establish a landing point.
So you're going to have to go through several properties to get to Matilda's house. You can see it because it's open ground, but it's like it's past Hengist's house. So right. You'll have to climb over a series of wrought iron fences, and then move through the property until you sort of like.
Oh, right. Sorry, I misheard. I thought I'd walked past the load and then come back, double back on myself down another
Yeah,
lane.
you're sort
and then there was Matilda's and another one.
Yeah, so you sort of like got to the end and turned, and now you're looking
Down a whole
the
row of houses.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Sorry. In which case, this I cannot do at night time because I need to be seeing what I'm looking at.
You can see
Yeah.
Matilda's house because there's a whole load of flaming brands.
Brands of guards going around.
Yeah.
Okay, well, in which case, I will take a brief half an hour, just looking along this whole row to see if I can see any blood marks, any tracks, anything that stands out that's out of place, in the hope that maybe this thing's kept on going and not going to one of these houses.
Okay, yes. Make a tracking roll then. You know, you sort of like spend some. Number one, it's still quite dark. The sun hasn't come up yet, and it's quite cold, and so it's really difficult without sort of like, keeping close to the ground, etc. And you don't see any signs of blood or footsteps or drag marks or anything. You do get, you still see the curtains twitching as you're walking around, and and after a while you notice that there's two city guards that are several at the end of the street. You figure they might have been warned that there was somebody acting suspiciously round, and you can see that they're not approaching you at the moment. They're keeping a fair distance away from you.
Astra will approach the guards, and he'll walk up casually. He's using his spurs a walking stick. It's late at night. He's quite tired, and he'll say, "We're investigating the murder of Lady Matilda's father at the Grimes household. Could you tell me if you've seen anybody or anything come this way at all through the night? You seem to be very observant guards."
Yeah, well, roll your influence roll.
I'll tell you what I'm going to do, because I'm feeling the adrenaline pumping. I wish to use a point of luck, if that's okay, to reverse that.
They turn round to you and say, "Why are you creeping around in the dark on Gentry Hill, good sir?"
I have just said, my man. Did you not hear me? I'm sorry, I'm not from these parts. I'm from the northern steppes of Odessa.
Yeah, they sort of like look you up and down and say, "We can see that."
Then you did not hear my question. Did you see anything strange coming this way? There was a murder
and
in the house.
The guard says, "Apart from you, good sir, no."
I do not find myself strange. I find myself very comfortable. The city maybe is a little bit strange, but I learned to adapt to this because it's a beautiful city.
We can escort you to a suitable place if needed.
If you wish to escort me to my friend's Hengist's abode, you can do. He's just a few more houses down the road here.
Maybe it would be better if you return down to the main area, or even to the wilderness beyond the walls.
Oh, you're those type of guards. Yes, okay, I will leave, but I'll be back in the morning with my friends.
And
please have an uneventful night.
And as you sort of like walk away and head back round, you notice that they are definitely making sure that you are off premises, and they sort of like follow at a discreet distance until you get to until you sort of like go down the road off Gentry Hill, when they sort of like stop at the top of the road as you go down. You sort of like have a casual glance behind, and you notice that they're sort of like still there, almost like guarding the entrance now to Gentry Hill. Are you going anywhere in particular once you...
I'm trying to work out how long it would take me to get back to my home and get a few hours sleep, or whether it'd be worth going to just the inn and getting a room there, which I wouldn't like.
Well, no, you're probably, because it's only like sort of like 3:30, 4:45 in the morning, so it's probably
I'll head home.
Yeah, it's probably better to go to your home and catch up with your sleep there.
Yeah, so I'll do that.
Gulliver, you're probably the first one up.
So Gulliver's going to sort of like get up a bit early, and he's going to quickly get.
Hang on, because I need to just back you a bit. You are woken up. Could you make for me, please, a willpower check?
Yeah, 30 standard out of 70.
Yeah, you sort of like it's one of those bits when you suddenly wake up, and you're not too sure why you've woken up. It's really strange. You were having a dream about Danielle, your mentor, and the library and things like that, and in this dream you sort of like had all these books that you had to put back onto shelves, and you sort of like also sort of like come awake. You've had...
Is the room still dark?
Yeah. You've had some sleep, but maybe only like an hour and a half. And you sort of like look around the room. It's just sort of like your normal box room that you sleep in. And it's just that it's really strange that you just suddenly woken up. What would you like to do?
Everything's how we went to sleep.
Oh, a roll of perception check then. Are you lighting your candle?
How dark is it?
Well, the sun will be up in probably about another hour.
Yeah, first thing he'll do then is light.
Yeah.
Is light his candle so that he can see better.
Yeah. Okay then. So make a perception check now, so I know what difficulty it's going to be at. Yeah, you sort of like look around, and everything seems to be in the exact same place as you left it. There doesn't seem to be anything missing at all. Even your robes are still over the back of the chair as you sort of like stand in your night dress, your nightgown, and everything seems to be... I always imagine Gulliver to be quite fastidious about where he puts everything,
And precise, yeah.
Yeah, and everything's exactly nothing. It doesn't look like... it doesn't even look like your robe has been moved. It's still spread over the chair with those neat folds in, and your shoes or boots or whatever you wear are sort of like next to each other in the exact same place, perpendicular to the wall, and very much in a almost like, well, exactly how you left it, but for some...
So it might have been his overactive mind that had just woken him up, thinking about all the things that had happened over the last few days.
Yeah, it could have been.
Working through it in his mind. And
yeah, you just remembered that you were having that dream.
About
your mentor, and you think it's probably because of when you first talked to her last night, but it was this idea that it started off almost like you had arrived at the library, and then instead of sort of like meeting it, there was just this huge pile of books, and you had to put them all on the library shelves, but as fast as you're taking one book off and putting it on, another one seems to be... people.
But Danielle Duncan had said that she was going back down to the library to
the Lindos library, yeah.
And it's been at least a few hours since he last saw her.
Yeah, most definitely.
So he's going to get dressed, and he's going to change what he was going to do this morning. He's going to go down to the library now.
Okay, so
to see whether or not Daniel Duncan's found anything out, and then he's then going to go and have something to eat quickly before heading to the docks to see whether or not the Wave Crest is in dock.
Yeah, so you sort of like get dressed and you sort of like busy. Can you make a willpower check for me, please?
Yeah, 71 out of 17.
Yeah, and as you're sort of like dressing and sort of like getting ready to go, you hear a very familiar voice. That's actually inside your head, and you recognize it straight away. It's Danielle's. It's your mentor, and you automatically hear it, and she just says, "Gulliver, Gulliver, let me in, Gulliver."
Gulliver will say back in his mind,
I'm sorry, mistress, but you trained me well, and my will was. Oh, are you at the door?
No, Gulliver. We taught you this spell. Surely you know what it is.
Oh, yes.
so he's going to sort of like drop his mind defenses so that she can talk to him freely.
I see. You're about to come and join me in the library. You suddenly realise that she might be reading your surface thoughts at the moment. Obviously, she's not going any deeper, but what was currently in your head when she made contact was that you were getting dressed and going to the library.
Well, I was going to go and get breakfast first and then come to see you, but then I woke up and it was still, well, it was only just getting light, so I thought I'd come to see you and then go.
Gulliver, stop and listen.
Okay.
Good. My search at the library has been very fruitful. Very, very much. It would appear that our friend we spoke about the other night was not what we initially thought. It appears he was delving very deep into dark magic. I have found records of certain trade agreements, certain threats. It would appear, Gulliver, that our friend, if you understand my meaning, it is hard to talk at the moment. Anyway, it would appear that he was engaging with necromancy.
That's not good. That's not good at all.
No. I would prefer if you do not stop for breakfast, Gulliver. Meet me at the library as soon as you can. There is much we have to discuss. And bring your colleagues.
I'll put some pants on and come straight away. Well, when everybody else is here.
And he'll
There's no more voices in your head at all.
What's going to be the quickest way to get a message to Bartleby?
Bartleby is probably not an issue because you can actually go past his church as you head towards the... so I think your guild is about here. And I think isn't 3, or somewhere up here is the library place. You remember you know somebody from the library because of your when you had to go across the other places, somebody had the map stolen from there. So that's the library. It's like the city's library. The sort of
it's the city's library rather than the Order's library.
Yeah,
right. I'm with you. But the issue is going to be getting a message to.
Well, you don't actually know where Hazra is at the moment, but you can call to pick up Bartleby on the way if that's what you wish to do. Yeah.
He'll call at the that Amriel's temple for Bartleby.
So Bartleby, you just sort of like undress and slip into your hard but functional sleeping bunk, and no sooner if you just sort of like drifting off that one of the young initiates comes over, and you feel that you've been asleep but then all of a sudden woken back up again as there's a knock at your door that is quite not gentle, and there's an initiate there who looks as if he might have been asleep, and he sort of like says, Master Bartleby, there is a young boy at the door for you.
Thank you for I'll be
and he doesn't wait, he just sort of like walks off. So as you sort of like talking, you look round and there's sort of like nobody there, and once you get to the door you see it's Gulliver.
Were you sleeping, Bartleby?
I think I was. I was in that realm.
There's stuff to do. My mistress wants to see us concerning the happenings. We've got to go to the library. Is Haswell with you?
No, last I heard he had gone up onto the hill to do an all-nighter, going through people's yards and finding tracks, perhaps finding the rabbit hole that our foe has gone down into.
Oh, well, we can't go up there to find him. We'll just have to go by ourselves.
Can't you, do your watery eyes and fingers?
Yeah.
Let him know that.
Oh, you know what Hazra's like, having sorcery magic cast on him. He gets so upset, and he has a almost mad look in his eyes when I do it.
Gulliver, can you make a willpower check, please? Unless you want to let the voice in. It feels familiar.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, isn't it? Is whether or not. I mean, if it feels familiar, then yes, he will. But
yeah, and Matilda's voice comes into your head, and
whose?
Danielle, sorry. Danielle's voice comes into your head and says, "Where are you, Gulliver? Haste is needed."
Gulliver will forget to sort of like speak back in his mind, and all of a sudden he just says in front of,
We're on our way now. I've got Bartleby, but I've no idea where Hazra is, so you'll have to make do with just the two of us."
So you make your way away from that Bartleby's church and to the town library, and there seems to be a rather dozing person on guard, some kind of scholar or anything, and he sort of like looks up, and he's just about to sort of like intercede and sort of like ask you what you're doing and where you're going, when Danielle arrives and sort of like beckons you both with her, and she leads you down a series of stairs. That the city library is quite vast, but a lot of things are kept in vaults underneath the surface of the road. And you know, as you go down, you understand a little bit why, because the coolness down here and it's very dry air sort of like keeps important documents safe and without them perishing. And she takes you down, and then you've gone down several steps of... Say again?
I said, way on down.
Several steps or down several sets of stairs until you come to what appears to be a reading room, and there's a half burnt out candle just still glowing, and all the wax is sort of like over the brass holder, and there seems to be several books open and several parchments unfold on the table. And she sort of like brings up what appears to be a ledger of like a courtroom, as if there's been some kind of judicial or law court in action. And she sort of like talks you through it, and as she talks you through it, she tells you that the Gully and Grime was actually held into account for what appears to be murder, of killing somebody, but he was acquitted. He never, there was no proof that he ever did it. And there seems to be some kind of, it seemed to be another merchant, and who has sort of like gone against the deal, and no sooner has that happened, and the colleagues of the merchant gives evidence that the deal was going according to plan, but then it was terminated by the merchant, and Gary and Grime didn't like this, and several days after this merchant was found dead.
Does it give his name?
It refers to somebody called Pete something or other. It seems to be quite a common name, and Danielle sort of like moves you away from that, and because the interesting thing that she's found is not actually that part. The interesting part is that Gary and Grime was acquitted, so he wasn't tried, wasn't put into jail or anything like that. But the interesting thing is that there's a little additional footnote in the documentation that seems that the case was not reopened, but almost like left, because within this scrawl at the bottom, it actually states that the body of Pete the merchant was actually removed in some way from the local graveyard, and the empty grave was found by some local mourners that I was going to lay flowers, and despite him being buried there some 3 to 5 days beforehand, the ground was overturned, and the casket, the wooden box, not very fancy or anything, was removed and broken open, and there was no body there. There seems to be something about a case of it was eventually given over to wild animals or strange creatures that nobody can actually... it doesn't all fit together, but it looks like there was some kind of excuse. And Danielle sort of like points this out, and she sort of like points to it and says, I think this body was used
for the... Got to look around and say, for the necromancy.
Yeah, and Bartleby gives a quick genuflex at that point. Once the word necromancy, and she says to you, Gulliver, there is something not right here, something about that house, something about these murders. They do not seem to fit together at all.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Because when the man was murdered last night, it was different. All the other ones have been women with blonde hair and blue eyes, and
She doesn't seem to be completely aware of the recent murder. She's heard of it but not got the details. And she says, you both notice, Bartleby and Gulliver, you both notice that she looks very haggard and very tired. And she says, I need to rest. And she sort of like starts to sort of like walk back up the staircases with you following. And as she sort of like comes out of the library with you, and the custodian of the library sort of like nods, you notice that the sun is just breaking over the horizon, and it's a cold morning. And she says, I suggest we sleep for a few hours and convene at your favourite haunt in, shall we say, slightly past 9 bells.
Mistress, my friend Bartleby here might be able to aid you in with your tiredness. He's a priest of Amriel.
Fear not.
Could indeed.
Fear not. And she sort of like puts her hand up to you. She says,
I'm sure he would have offered.
I am in no need of, shall we say, religious hocus pocus. Gulliver, you should know the true power lies with the sorcerers. I do not.
I'm always telling him that, but
Yes, tell him to.
I'm a strong believer that everybody should follow their own beliefs.
And she looks up to the sun and she says, 9 bells at that haunt you like to go to, that inn of some disrepute.
The heavy hobgoblin.
Yes. And make sure that all your colleagues are with you. It will probably be time for us to act, so please be ready. And that is where we will leave it for a quick 10-minute break. So if you're busy watching it, then nip out, get yourself a coffee, a drink or whatever, and we will come back after the break when the party, Hazra will be back, probably coming to join, and we'll join them back in the Hairy Hobgoblin shortly past 9 bells, refreshed and hopefully ready to put the story to bed. Okay, we will see you in 10 minutes. So it's 20:30 here, so about 10 minutes, 20:40, and we will be back. Till then, look after yourself, and we'll see you soon. See you later.
Pretty close.
You're not going to drink all that, are you?
Is it filtered milk?
No,
is
it's,
it?
It will be.
It's Bailey's.
It will be.
Right. Okay then. So you all meet the next morning. Everybody's had sleep, etc. Thank you, Garish. So everybody's back, and Matilda, Danielle actually arrives at the hairy hobgoblin shortly after 9, and you have all sort of like congregated there, and you seem to be exchanging words about what you know and what you don't know with each other, and Danielle sort of like arrives, but she doesn't actually get completely over to your table at all, and as she sort of like is walking towards you, somebody else comes in the room and looks around, sees you, and quickly runs over to you, and as she gets closer, you notice that it is
The handmaiden.
yeah, the maid that was with Matilda the previous night when they came in here, and also the handmaiden that escorted you out, and she comes dashing across, and she sort of like, she seems out of breath, and as if she's probably run all the way, and in order to almost like confirm this, she says, I have run all the way here. You need to come quickly. My mistress is summoning you. Some things have been found that really puts all this into perspective. Please come now.
Gulliver's going to push his chair up and stand up.
Yeah, and as you sort of like stand up, she sort of like reaches out and grabs your wrist, and sort of like, and then sort of like starts to move off. Just make a brawn roll for me, Gulliver.
Gulliver gets pulled off his feet.
Yeah, and it's sort of like, she sort of like pulls you. You sort of like, you weren't ready for this, and you sort of like lunge forward, maybe catch a bit on the edge of the table and stumble.
Oh, it's awful when that happens, when you catch your bits on the edge of the table.
And your gammy leg sort of like stumbles for a while, and she sort of like releases her grasp, but not her grasp. She just sort of like lets you recover, and she says, "We need to go now." And she turns round and, still holding on to you, Gulliver, starts to make her way to the door.
I can't move all that fast. I've got a weird leg.
Yeah, and almost like dragging you as you sort of like limp along from your previous injury. She sort of like gets you sort of like halfway across here quite effectively as she pulls you, and you look up and see Daniela there, and she just sort of like goes, and the mouths go to her. And Bartleby and Hazard, what's your plan of action?
To follow.
Okay. So, and is Bartleby doing the same?
Yes, but with the slowest reaction.
Yeah, and you sort of like head out of the hairy hobgoblin, and the girls sort of like drags.
What did Danielle Duncan do as she was?
She sort of like mouthed to you, and it looked like she said go.
Okay,
as if you might be considering to stay and talk to her, but she seems to be more. It seems she realizes that this is more important, and you sort of like head right the way through Lindo, almost at a jog, almost being pulled along, and you sort of like get up to the actual the house, and the first thing, Hazra, you notice is that there's no guards on duty outside the house at all. And they, as you sort of like go, the gates were open. And as you sort of like go up, there seems to be no sign of any guards round about.
Well, as you're noticing that, he will pull up the maid and see what has happened to the guards that are protecting this premises.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you, when you say pull up, verbally or physically?
Physically.
Okay, then. So
I want to stop this headlong flight. Into,
yeah. So make a brawn roll for me.
Mm.
Oh, you're there like holding hands. So
Yeah,
she's
Well, Hazra sort of like reaches out and sort of like grabs her arm and sort of like pulls her to a halt, and the girl sort of like lets out a cry and she says, "Let me go! We need to get into the house."
Tell me where the guards have gone. There's supposed to be guards here.
She sort of like lets out a huge sigh and says, "My mistress dismissed them early this morning."
But why would she do that? Because they were protecting your premises.
I do not know.
It's not the time for questions.
I do not know.
No, okay. I'm not happy with
Gulliver's
this.
going to head off and try to get through the maiden doors.
Yeah, so as you sort of
I'll
like,
follow as well. Yeah.
as you get up to the doors, and you sort of like that, you see that they're open, and you notice that there seems to be frantic activity inside, and the maid sort of like signals to somebody and says, where is the mistress? And the person sort of like says, You have just missed her. She is gone. But they left word about that the thing that you know that they found, it is in the negotiation room. And the girl sort of like brings you round to the room that you were in before, and you notice that she sort of like stops as you sort of like see what's on the table, and it seems to be like a leather satchel, but it's been opened, and there's sort of like pieces of parchment all over the place, and the girl, the young maid sort of like says, my mistress found these in her father's room. They was locked away in a similar way as my lady keeps things locked away down here, like money and property.
Gulliver's going to pick up the one of the bits of parchment on top and quickly have a look at it, see whether or not he can determine what it is.
Yeah, so just roll a literacy roll for me, please. And Bartleby, you can.
31 out of 51.
So you sort of like look at it, and it becomes instantly what these are. These appear to be a series of love letters. They seem to be between two people, and it looks like they've been collected over the years and over weeks or months, and there seems to be this talking about this wonderful romance between a person called Jack, and what you see is Melissa, the person that you see, and you sort of like quickly, Gulliver, you're sort of like flipping through these, and then you notice that at the edge of the table there's a note that is being nailed down to the table, which with what appears to be quite an ornate dagger, and it's just sort of like on the table. It's just like somebody's whacked it into it, and it's sort of like there, and you go over, and you sort of like quickly you remove the dagger and quickly have a look through it, and it tells of this person, Jack, is going to tell Melissa's father of his love for her. And just make an insight roll for me.
I'm going to use a point of luck
Okay.
to re-roll that, if I may.
Yep.
We're 22 or something.
Yeah, and you suddenly sort of like scan down it, and you suddenly realise that this person called Jack was going to tell Melissa's father that he was in love with her and how passionate, and you suddenly get a feeling from the note that Melissa is not happy about this and sort of like begs him not to do it, and he's constantly saying, "Fear not, we can always be together." And you suddenly realise that there was some kind of love affair or romance going backwards and forwards, and your insight roll leads down it, and you suddenly realise from capturing little bits of words that Jack was a servant, but sorry, even worse than that, Jack was a stable boy, and he was doing this unrequited love to this this gentry, member of the gentry, called Melissa, and Melissa reciprocated the romance as well, but
probably taught him how to write, maybe.
Yeah, and
up her status.
Yeah, and there's definitely this idea, however, that the father would not be pleased. Gary and Grime would not be pleased, and as you're sort of like bringing this together and sharing the information, somebody comes around the corner and says, he seems to be out of breath. He seems to be one of the footmen, and he sort of like says, the mistress, she has headed down to the far end of the estate. And the young girl, the handmaiden, sort of like looks at you all and says, we need to find her. She was talking about revenge.
What's at the far end of the estate?
Just stables and outbuildings.
Show us now. Take us there.
And you sort of like head out across the grounds, and sure enough, over in the far side, almost like at the bedroom was on the left side, these are on the right side, far down. There's a series of outbuildings that make almost like a courtyard. And you sort of like get over there, and you sort of like have a quick look round, and then you start to search in the buildings and the stalls, and it's in the back of one of the buildings that when you walk in, it looks as if it was some kind of humble abode, perhaps, very sort of like beds that are wooden and slatted and with straw-filled covers and things, and blankets and things, but there's that smell of mouldiness and damp, and it looks like this has not been used for ages. But you notice that over in one corner, one of the beds has been tipped over, almost like flipped and flung to one side, and you notice that Matilda is stood there, and she has like a screwed up piece of parchment in one hand, and as you come in, you notice that she's actually armed. She actually has what appears to be a very similar dagger to the one that was left in the stab down on the table, and she has this in her other hand, and she sort of like hears the noise behind her and sort of like turns round, and you sort of like edge your way into the room, and you suddenly notice that the reason she stopped is that underneath the bed, where the bed was, there's a roughly cut circular sort of like hole. It seems to have a piece of rope tied off to one of the almost like beams of the house, and it goes down, and as you sort of like enter, she holds out, without taking her eyes off the hole, she holds her hand out backwards to you, and you slowly move up and take out the note that she is carrying, and quickly reading down it, it tells of the romantic encounters that used to happen in this building, and this idea that this was their meeting place, and there seems to be something almost like a sadness in this part of the letter, and it seems to be written purely from Melissa's point of view, that everything has been found out, everything is out in the open, father is not pleased, and the words, that the final words that Melissa has written is that she says, "I fear for Jack," and that there's nothing else written. It's not even signed off at all.
Gulliver's going to put his hand on Bartleby's shoulder and just give it a squeeze.
Okay.
I'll accept.
And you have a shoulder.
Isn't that supposed to be the other way around?
You have a squeeze from Gulliver on your shoulder. And as you sort of like all stand there, but bemused, the handmaiden sort of like says, "Mistress," and she sort of like looks round, and
does she look really angry?
She looks both angry and upset at the same time, and she's
got a dagger in her hand.
Yeah, and she says, "I need to sort this, and I need to sort it now."
Well, mistress, I bow to your anger. I know that you are very angry about what has happened to your father, but maybe perhaps
she turns.
This entrance, this portal into the ground. Maybe we should go first, if you wish to.
Just cease your rabbling tongue, man! You talk as if you are a sermon of the gods. This is where I get my revenge, and you can either stay here or leave. For now is the time that this will come to an end. Whatever's down there killed my father, and I will seek revenge.
Do you think throwing away your life, such a precious life, is worth that?
And as you
let us go first, and we will take this.
Yeah, and just as Hazra sort of like bursts into his spiel again, Matilda just walks across and starts to lower herself. She seems to have some kind of thigh sheath that she slips a dagger into, and slowly sort of like lowers herself down the rope.
Hazra will follow without a doubt. Straight away, I'm behind her.
Oh, this isn't good. Bartleby, why didn't you use your prayers to calm her? I gave you the squeeze.
Can't just be preying on people who are of a higher class. They don't normally, and they don't always like that.
Oh, well, it's better that she goes and murders somebody then, isn't it?
Well, if it's a monster, then we can achieve all of our goals. I think let's get in line. Let's get in line for this. We're going down.
If it's a monster, it's over 100 years old, because what happened between Melissa and Jack was ages ago.
Yeah, but I remember this story about this intrepid crew that aided barbarians in killing ancient monster that was massive.
I remember that story. I was part of that story.
I only remember a fraction because I was behind a rock.
Gulliver's going to head. Is there any light? Does it look like there's any light?
Yeah, you should be able to see yourselves on the map now.
Can't see a damn thing.
Yeah.
It's all black.
Yes.
At least we have no light.
There is light. You'll see it. It's because I tell you what, it's gone like that because you're not assigned to your characters. Just 1 second, because you will.
I do not need to be assigned because I'm a chosen one of the gods.
Apparently.
Gulliver, can you see anything now?
Can see it now. Yeah, got it. Thank you very much. Ike and Macduff.
Bartleby?
The one once.
Yep.
Can you see?
Is
there any? What does it look like? Does it look like it might be carved from rock or?
Thank you.
No, yeah, no. So what it actually looks like? You figure that she by the time you get down there, Matilda has lit one of the torches that seems to be down here. It seems to be there's a definite smell down here. It smells quite foul, and you soon sort of like realize, as you can hear the trickle of water, that it's probably the sewers underneath the town, and that probably run right the way from the sea through the slums, right the way up.
Gulliver's going to turn to Bartleby and say,
I was right. I said he was in the sewers right from the start.
Yes, that is where Sewer Jack would be.
The clue is in the name.
Matilda.
what exits is there going from the room?
Right. So there's a little room behind you.
More importantly, how high is the ceiling and how?
Oh, it's
wide?
fine.
Better,
It's
yeah.
fine at this point at the moment. So this is the room that you actually came down into. Okay, and I'm just making your tokens a little bit smaller to get the.
Help me, I'm shrinking.
And you notice that Matilda is already out at the corridor looking left and right. You notice that she's drawn her dagger once more.
Okay, Gulliver wants to use influence with what he's about to say, and he's going to say,
Forgive me, lady, but
Is it
perhaps
willpower that it is opposed
yes,
by?
I do believe it is, yes.
Cool.
I say, forgive me, lady, but perhaps you should allow Hazard to go first. He's skilled in tracking both animals and people, and finding our quarry will be a lot faster if he could pick up his trail.
Yeah, roll your influence.
24 out of 61.
She actually fails her willpower. Well, her willpower, despite being quite a dominant lady, willpower's more to do with how strong your mind is, and she also seems to be very fragile at the moment. So fails it with a 54, which means, and she sort of like wavers for a minute, as if you sort of like what you're saying is actually getting through to her.
Gulliver will push it when he sees us and he'll say,
Come back into the room and let Hazard do his work.
And she sort of like keeps the torch in her hand and steps gently back, and she sort of like says, I will have my revenge for my father.
Yeah, I agree, my lady, but I need to see these any tracks before people step on them. So I thank you for your courtesy.
She just lets out this huge sigh, as she sort of like, she has the torch in one hand and the dagger, and it's not held upright, if that makes sense. It's held,
Stabby.
yeah.
Yep.
And she when you sort of like say that, she just sort of like lets out this huge sigh, and you notice that her eyebrows sort of like come down as if she's trying to calm herself. You see the white of the knuckles appear on her hand.
I want to step into the corridor and I want to see if I can see any tracks whatsoever, any direction they're going to. Because I'm assuming this is going to be.
Well, you currently can just see the small bit of ground
to my right.
Gulliver wants to take off his backpack whilst Hazra is in the thing, and he wants to light another torch.
Roll your tracking.
What, to light a torch?
No.
No, I'm with you now.
Yeah, the whole ground seems to be all slippery. You're quite used to tracking in wilderness rather than on pavement, and you've only got a very small part of the ground to look at. There definitely seems to be things moving around here, but there's no sort of like...
There's no more of an impression of slime,
no,
the impression going one way.
It just seems to be very wet down here, very damp, and there's definitely sort of like you just make a perception roll, Hazra, now that you're out in the corridor.
Oh, I'm on fire.
Yeah, you can hear water trickling both to your left and to the right.
Thank you for that.
Have you found this track yet?
No, it's very. The problem is there is no substance to leave tracks in. It's stone, but I can hear water coming from my right hand side and my left hand side. So I'm guessing you city dwellers have these caves that your refuse goes through. So
yeah,
maybe
we find it better than just burying it in a hole.
well, it works for generations.
Can I see whether or not I can get my bearings? I want to know which way would be heading. Which way would I go, left or right, to head down out of the higher class, down into the middle class, and then down into the sort of like the merchant area?
Well, it would be, you would have to probably turn right here. Matilda seems to be so angry as you're sort of like having this discussion backwards and forwards. And you notice, Gulliver, even with your influence, she's almost like really annoyed that everybody's just stood around doing nothing. You've now got your torchlight, by the way. You probably. Oh yeah, you can see it. You can see that it's.
I got it. Yeah.
And
Gulliver's going to say,
to the right, Hazra. Right.
Just to let people know who are following the stream, what you can see now, they can't see. The players never sit in the chat. So when I do this, this is exactly.
Players quickly exit the chat.
Yeah, this is exactly what they see now. But you can see everything. So please don't suddenly warn them of the gelatinous cube that's covering up the corridor.
No, we need to go top right hand side and then back left and then double back down again.
So as soon as Hazra moves off, Ica sort of like steps into the
gutted
thing, and she's sort of like just one second. Yeah, she sort of like quickly looks left and right. Hazra seems to move off to one.
As soon as Hazra gets some light, he will move ahead of the group to scout ahead.
Text message.
Okay then. So Matilda doesn't look very happy at all. She seems to be wanting to walk a lot quicker that everybody is doing. She seems to not have the cautiousness that you people have as you sort of like edge your way round the sewers. You come to I'm just moving Bartleby up. So
he's staying in the. I think he's staying in the.
No,
wood.
I wanted to follow.
Right,
I just, my feet got heavy.
You sort of like come to an open area, and just beyond here, we'll probably move you all up. I've lost Bartleby. So you come to like an area that seems to be the green goo that you see. That is the flow of the sludge. There's the area across the other side. There seems to be another platform, the same as yours, and this area to the right. After a few meters, comes to a dead end, although there seems to be some kind of grill in the water that this stuff is flowing out under. You can see
That's to the right, did you say?
Yeah. So this is the wall, and this is a very narrow, slippery side. So it looks like in times of high sludge and sewer, it probably covers this.
So very nice.
Yeah, and then sort of like retreats back. But this is definitely the trickle of water that you could hear and see.
And there's no exit to the north, so Hazra will head cautiously while trying to hold the side of the wall around this narrow walkway here this way.
Okay then, so you sort of like sidle your way down.
I'll be using my staff as much as I can in the sludge just to.
Do you mean
support
spear?
Myself. Spear, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, it's like a staff. It's got a point on the end.
Yeah. So you sort of like start to. So just to make people clear, the path that you're on is this part here. Does that make sense?
Can I just move up that? Yeah, I've got. It's this bit here.
Yes, this part.
Just the edgy bit. Yeah.
This part is the wall.
This bit's the wall, and that bit. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've got you. So that bit's the wall there, and that bit's the path that we're on.
Yeah. So Hazra is sort of like back against the wall, sort of like inching his way round. Make an athletics check. This will be hard. And you sort of like start to inch your way round, and Matilda sort of like looks at it and looks at you sort of like inching your way round, and she turns. I mean, there is no way she is going to get along that path, and it's almost like she knows that. And she just sort of like looks disgusted and sort of like comes past you, Gulliver, and starts to pass by Bartleby.
I want to like immediately follow her. I want to shoot a glance at Gulliver and then like stick by her to.
Yeah.
Priest do.
You'll hear Hazra again. It has Lady gun.
Hazra, just follow me. Why do you have to talk every time?
Are we going back?
And he goes and leaves him in the dark.
Hazra will scoot on the corner again, using his spear to brace himself.
Yeah, athletics check, please. Hard.
Oh, hard?
Yeah, same as before.
I'll use a point and reverse it.
Do you wish to look it and re-roll it?
No, because I want to go for this folly.
Okay, so you, as you sort of like head back, and just as Gulliver sort of like goes out of light range, you're right on the edge, and you miss time or misplace, and you sort of like hit something, and you sort of like go like that down, and Gulliver, you hear not a splash as all like that, and Hazra, you sort of like slide into the into the sludge and the sewer. Just as you sort of like going, you just make a willpower check for me, please.
No.
Yeah, you swallow some.
Yeah, and so something goes into your mouth. You're not too sure what exactly it was.
Mr. Jenkins, what did you eat?
Well, whatever it is, you're eating it now. And you
It's almost cigar shaped.
yeah,
Corn.
and you sort of like spit it out and clamber.
Has a wretched, and he scrabbles out.
And you sort of like go, and Gulliver, you sort of like hear this, and you look around, and I think Hazra wears linen, or is it a padded?
White linen.
It was white, grey linen.
And yeah, everybody's moving. And everybody's moving along now with Matilda at the front, leading the way, and Gulliver, you're sort of like going and thinking,
Smell.
what is that smell?
Am I studying something?
And you turn round and see Hazra sort of like
Glaring at you.
and covered in all this gloop.
No, Hazra is glaring. He said, Gulliver, why do you take the light away when I was coming back along the ledge?
Gulliver's just going to throw me forward.
I will chase the light.
Okay, and you come to this area here. So you can see up at the top here, I think you can see a little bit round the corner now. Yeah, so these are the grills that you've seen before here. This Bartleby looks like some kind of bridge. It seems to be some planks of wood that has been put across the drain. Matilda saw it, looks to the south, and it just sees this thing continuing, and she sort of like moves forward into this area. And you suddenly notice that this and this, they look like just like planks of wood that have been put across the drains. You also notice this over here, from what you can see, and let's see what you can actually see.
We can't.
Yeah.
We can only just see the.
You can see across there. As you look across, you can see what appears to be a set of yellow eyes glaring at you from the darkness. And they seem to blink every now and again, and you almost get to the point that you're worried, because once they go out you don't know where they are, and then they appear somewhere else.
Gulliver wants to throw the torch over.
Okay then, so you can roll your combat skill. I think allows you to throw random things, does it?
It asked me to throw stones and rocks.
I'm the one who throws debris.
Oh, right. Okay, then. So, yeah, roll your combat skill. We'll use that as a rough guide, and then it'll be one step harder, so it'll be like a hard to get it where you would like it.
I got a 7 out of 51.
Wow. Now, see,
so that's formidable.
Yeah, that is very...
So I want to throw it where the eyes blink. I'm going to pull the torch back, and where they next appear, I want to throw the torch in that direction. Not necessarily aiming directly for it, but to get close to that.
Okay. Let me just put this on for you. And you should then be able to see over there.
Oh, look, I even got the torch.
Yeah. So yeah, you can probably see a lot. You do notice.
Don't forget to take the torch off Gulliver's token.
Oh yes, thank you. Just to let you know, you do notice that the torch seems to be burning quite brightly over this side, and even the one that Matilda is holding seems to be flaring a lot more than it would be. And as you throw the torch over, there's almost like a cry, almost like a scream, and what appears to be let me just take that off because that's not relevant, and those because I don't need those either.
That wasn't a very good throw.
This sort of like creature suddenly backs out of the way and sort of like moves frantically to one side. I've got a picture of it coming, so just hang.
I don't want to see that.
It seems to be slumped over, and it seems to be very sparsely dressed. You probably think it's some kind of creature.
Oh dear.
Can you see it?
Well, what's wrong with its big toe?
I'm just going to move it over to one side. And
Jack has let himself go.
And this thing sort of like rushes over to this pillar and cowers behind the pillar as if you can see it's bringing out a hand trying to bat the torch away from it. But as it sort of like glances round to try to find the torch, it almost like catches an eye and sees you all on the opposite side, and she is sort of like stops, and it almost like creeps slowly around the pillar and looks round, and then you just hear a young lad's voice in this hideous body. This young lad's voice turns around and says, "Melissa, you've come back." And Matilda sort of like looks around.
Hazra's going to head to the bridge to be sort of ward the bridge, while saying to Matilda, "He means you, woman. You look like the painting in your house."
She sort of like flashes an eye at you and sort of like shouts back over to the monster, "You killed my father, and now this cold blade of steel will poke you." And she
I don't think it's him. I think he's trying to protect them.
And you hear the voice on the other end. It says, Melissa, I still love you. After all these years, I knew you would return to me. You will come back to me, and you will meet me."
Does she look like she's actually going to go across to the...
You can see her scanning up and down the walkway, seeing whether or not there's any other sort of like...
is the dagger in her hand, or is it still in...
most definitely in her hand. Most definitely.
Can I begin to pray a certain arranged prayer towards her? Prayer of calm?
Yeah, so hang on then. So let's burst into some kind of combat order here, because I have a funniest feeling that things might be about to get nasty.
I feel like that's hopefully going to not happen.
I concur.
How is so going from the picture? He's probably human size, is he?
Most definitely a lot bigger, but he seems to have this innocent voice within him.
And when I threw the thing, he hid.
From the light.
Okay, fine, thank you.
Okay, we roll your initiatives. Don't forget to click on your. Right.
Little slowpoke Bartleby.
Gulliver is on fire.
So this is combat round 1, turn 1, and the ghoul that it's just because I've got the token that is a ghoul, but Jack sort of like peers around this corner and sort of like looks across, and he sort of like says, Melissa, forgive me. I couldn't help myself. And that's on 22. And Gulliver, you're 19.
19. Gulliver is starting to cast a spell. The spell that I'm going to do is the following. Let me do this. Range is 1. Target is 1. Components modified is 1. Submit is that. And I'm going to try to grab the dagger from Melissa's hand.
Okay.
If she goes to, it's going to take me 2
turns. Yeah.
To cast. So, but that's my.
So this would be turn 1, won't it?
Yeah.
So you got 2 turns to go. Okay then. Hazra, you're up on 18.
Hazra is still going to ward this bridge. He doesn't want Melissa coming through him. Also, he doesn't want the creature coming towards him as well. While saying to the creature, "Why did you kill Melissa's father? Because if you loved her so much, why did you kill him?"
And that's said on 18. And Bartleby, you're up on 13.
Entering the prayer of calm, asking for Amriel to shine her glory down and make it so we're what's the word? Be prudent with your actions. That's using that. You have a willpower, but before you do that, here is my roll. Bartleby's panicking.
Reverse it.
So if you cast it when you were supposed to.
And actually, I'm just second guessing myself now, and I messed up my entire prayer on 13.
Do you wish to use a point of luck and re-roll it?
No, I'm gonna see how things go.
Okay, then don't forget you need to cross your magic point off.
Yeah. Okay, you're right.
Do you still just use one, or because if you fumble, do you lose more?
It's a good question.
Folk magic, if that helps.
I think folk. Fumble. Oh yes, 1 fumble. The caster loses 1d3. So roll a 1d3.
Sorry, Mr. Pickles.
Yeah.
Okay, so
no, it's all right. I got the highest number.
Yeah, well done.
It's all right. Normally he would have lost 6, but now he's only lost 3.
Yeah.
And then on 12, which is Matilda, she sort of like takes on board Hazel what you're saying, and she says out loud, she says, "I am not Melissa, you foul beast. And even if I was Melissa, I would not love one single hair on your head, for you are a demon, a nasty, revengeful demon." And that happens on 12. And we go to top of the round. And 2.
Building bridges.
And Jack seems to shake on his turn. He seems to be putting his head backwards and forwards as if he's trying to understand what it is, and then all of a sudden he just lets out this almighty screech and moves. Just need to make sure that I've got my and he seems to almost like dance. And his footing seems to be sure, as if he's grown up over years and decades moving around here. And he has no weapons on him, but just these hideous clawed hands. And he runs up until this point and almost like leaps across and lands right next to Matilda. Gulliver, you're up on 19. Your spell will come off on this round.
Okay.
This turn, sorry.
But seeing what's happened, is Gulliver able...
Oh, sorry, I just crossed you out then.
Oh, it's a sign of things to come.
Yeah.
Gulliver just wants to sort of like launch himself at this thing, hoping to catch it off balance, and maybe before Melissa can strike, or before the thing can strike at Matilda, he just wants to use his weight and
So this
almost like is it like a grab? I don't know.
Well, you have.
I just envisioned this being just sort of like he's in the middle of casting his spell, and then it launches, it lands next to him, and he almost like rugby tackles.
Yeah,
it.
so it's going to be a grapple rather than anything. So
unarmed combat.
It's your unarmed combat against my unarmed combat.
Is yours good?
I'm not telling you.
He hasn't got a weapon.
I'm going to use a point of luck, and I am going to re-roll this to give me the bestest roll ever.
Big money.
99.
It's going to be when you use a point of luck and it comes up with either a 1, 2, or a 3. Are you ready?
Ready.
Oh, shit.
Oh, I was 3 out. Oh, no. You see his ginger mop disappear into the sludge.
Yeah, his unarmed combat, by the way, is only 22. But his weapon, I love his weapon, his combat style, which is called Deathless Horror,
Yeah.
which is absolutely fantastic. So
Yeah, not as good as mine. Mine's called Unarmed Combat.
yeah, so you sort of like launch yourself, and he sort of like moves at the same time. You sort of like, you don't fly past him or something. You almost like, you both sort of like get involved with each other, but he sort of like just sort of like turns, and you both end up. You definitely stopped your movement. He can't. I'm going to say that he needs to not
Is he
take
engaged into me now? Is he engaged?
Yeah, you are both in combat, but what I'm going to say is because neither of you actually made your roll, so what probably happened is that you got close together, but sort of like managed to struggle each off. But
I probably made the mistake of pushing off from a gippy leg.
yeah,
rather than
and he sort of like used his action point to sort of like almost like shrug you off. So that's on 19. Hazra, it's 18. It's you.
Hazra's seen this poor unfortunate fiend jump across the water. He just plants his foot surely and throws his spear. He doesn't see Gulliver coming in because this is split-second actions. He's already seen this thing running across and jump. He knows what he's going to do. He puts his foot and he throws his spear in the hope.
So Matilda is in front of Jack at the moment.
Well, I'm kind of elevated, aren't I?
Why would you be elevated?
Because I'm on a bridge higher. Or is it a flat bridge? Sorry.
Or,
It's just planks going across, mate.
Oh, right.
That's what I
sorry,
said, yeah.
It's not. Right, my apologies.
You're elevated by about an inch.
I'm king of the world.
you can still chuck your spear if you wish.
I'm just second guessing, haven't I? Yes, he will do that. Hazra always does that. He throws a spear into combat. That's what he's doing.
Can I be evens, please?
Well, so yeah, use your action and lob your spear. You're going into combat, so it'd be one step harder, which would be hard. So you swing your spear out, and it sort of like flies, narrowly missing Matilda, and sort of like hits into the what you'll he can't act, so you'll have a hit. I need special hit locations and damage.
Yep. Hit location. Sorry, special is going to be impale.
Yeah.
Hit location will be 16.
16 is his left arm, which seems fair enough.
Yep. And damage will be a mighty 2.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry, aren't you impaling? Don't you roll it twice and take
I do. My apologies. Thank you. A mighty 6.
Yeah. Okay.
So he will now be one difficulty more.
Yeah, and it sort of like whacks into his shoulders. Your spear goes into him, and he sort of like almost like turns himself as it happens. And at this point, Matilda raises on. Sorry, it's Bartleby next. Sorry, I got excited then.
That's okay. We're pretty close in initiative, anyways. Bartleby is going to use this turn as a move to go about right here.
Cool. Yeah, so you move, and then it goes on to Matilda's, who sort of like reaches up with her dagger and moves it down into Jack in quite a forceful manner. Her skill is 37. And she sort of like goes down, but misjudges the distance altogether, and it just misses everything. And then we're going into combat round 3 for anybody who has any actions left. The Jack doesn't.
Gulliver does. He's going to push Jack off this ledge into the gook.
Okay, then, so that would be a brawn roll.
Oh, sorry, brawn.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And I need to match it with mine.
Which is even worse than my unarmed combat.
No, yeah. So you sort of like whack yourself up to it, and you don't. You almost like hit a brick wall on it. Anybody else still with actions?
I do. Would it be possible for me to draw my scimitar and move, or would I just have to draw my scimitar?
It depends where you are moving to.
I just want to move sort of here. I'll tell you what, I'll draw my scimitar here, and we'll, yeah.
Okay.
I was going to walk and sort of draw it and then position myself between Gulliver and...
so
no, I will just draw it.
Now we go on to round 2, combat round 1, and the frightening monster goes first. And he's got a spear in one of his shoulders, in his arm, which is sort of like off balancing him, so he's at hard for this. But what he does is that he just reaches out with his clawed hand towards Matilda. Yeah, 78's his skill, and he sort of like brings it out like that, and you see almost like in slow motion, Gulliver, as this thing sort of like comes towards it. Melissa tries to evade it and get out of the way. She's not the most dexterous person for her evade at all. And fails as this hand sort of like comes straight across to her. I just need to find out my damage. 1d4. Oh, hang on. I'll roll my 1d20 first. Oops. Roll 1d20. I know what my special's going to be. What's 19? Please tell me it's a head.
Average age of the combat veteran.
Please tell me 19 is a head.
It's a head.
Yeah, he sort of like reaches across with his hand, and it looks like a moment that it's going for Matilda's face, but then you notice, especially from where you are, Gulliver, that it seems to be reaching out to something round her neck. And you suddenly put two and two together and remember the other deaths had something around the neck, and he sort of like reaches out and grabs it. But as he grabs it, the nails, his claws, don't just grab the necklace. It sort of like digs in on either side as it's clamping down on it. So this is the first roll, which is a 2, and then it's got its damage adjustment, which is another 1d4. So yeah, it sort of like grabs round, and you see, Gulliver, you see the nails just sink into Melissa's throat and neck. And she lets out this huge scream. She needs to make an endurance roll. Her endurance roll is 27.
And if she survives this, she'll be wearing lots of polo necks from now on.
Yeah. You know, and it sort of like clamps on, and he sort of like pulls it. And Gulliver, you hear this horrendous ripping sound as the chain that's round her neck comes around in a handful of like flesh and bone, and there's a gush of blood, and Jack steps back slightly. He's still in combat round, and you notice that Melissa slumps to the ground. She looks like she's either dead or unconscious. And Gulliver, it's up to you. Sorry, it's your turn. It's up to you, Gulliver.
Is this a new combat round?
Yes, this is combat round 2, turn 1.
Okay, am I in combat?
You're close enough to strike if that's what you wish. If you want to move away, then you would have to roll an evade roll.
Right, I'm going to cast a spell. I want to reach out, and the spell that I am casting is. I don't think I've got anything modified. So that's what I'm going to cast.
Okay.
Because it's touch. So I don't know whether or not I'd have to make a...
Are you adhering the... What's the two things that you're going to stick together?
So I want to try to. Is he wearing boots or foot? It looks like his feet were sort of like.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to try to adhere him to the onto the surface that he's on.
Yeah.
So that he can't jump again.
So I get? Is it endurance?
Yeah, it's an endurance resist.
Uh,
And I better do my.
Oh yes, sorry. Yeah, is it just?
My roll first?
Is it just one? Yeah, just one.
Yeah, because I'm not changing anything on the.
Cool.
Okay,
Yeah.
So invocation.
Nice. That'll do the job.
Yeah, could have been better, to be honest with you. So that I can go up to 99. 10 was pretty rubbish.
Oh, it's a critical though.
Yeah, I suppose so. Is
So-
it?
Yeah,
Yeah, still a crit.
because
That's
99 will a tenth of it will be it'll round up to 100 and then so the critical is 10.
All right.
To be fair, you could have done better, but you know,
Yeah.
you tried.
And I get a 10 as well, but that will not beat a critical. Can you say I've just succeeded in a standard?
Right.
So, yeah, your spell goes off and he is now held fast to the floor. Hazra, you're up.
Hazra will jump from where he is now and try to land between Melissa, get my head, and Jack. So I want to literally just launch myself across to here.
So how far can
I can jump 7, and that's 4.
you can jump 7 meters?
Yes, horizontal jumping 7. Oh no, sorry, my apologies. Ignore that. No.
That's like the length of my bedroom.
Yeah, well, no, ignore that. That's a running jump. Sorry, ignore exactly what I just said. I'm going to run around and engage just here. Standing jump's only 2 meters, which is a bit rubbish. I can jump more than 2 meters. I'm like,
No, Medivac, you couldn't.
I could. I long jump champion.
What, from standing still?
Yeah.
Video.
I just fall over.
Okay, Bartleby.
I just have a question. Seeing how Hazard just went right in front of me, my goal here is to get to Matilda and use a miracle to try and bring her back to life. Would it?
You'll have to come round. Does it have a range, or is it touch?
Touch. All of my miracles are touch.
So you would have to come round this side of the.
Okay.
The
Yeah,
pillars.
that
So-
answers my question.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
Okay.
Skedaddle on over here.
Move on round. Okay then, moving on up, and that's the end of first turn. It now comes to the combat round 2, and I'm just going to still got an action, yeah, and it's going to reach out.
Reach out and touch me.
It fails its hard roll as it sort of like scrapes its right hand claw that's still got the blood and everything. It sort of like whirls it past Hazra, who's coming in, just sort of leans back slightly as it goes across. And Gulliver, you probably duck as it sort of like side stripes round and it misses. And Gulliver, you're up on 19.
Gulliver is going to try to disengage from combat.
Okay, so you can roll in an evade, but because there's various people in the way now, it'll be an easy roll. I just need to make sure you don't fumble it. No, you sort of like,
critical.
yeah, you sort of like roll, and because it's a critical, we say that you don't lie prone. You actually manage to get out the way. He probably swings round and you're level with the pillar, and you duck.
Yeah, I'll use the evade special of regain foot.
Yeah, and you sort of like you duck out the way and dodge back, and it sort of like whacks onto the pillar as you stand up. And Hazra, you're up.
I'll be. I want that hand.
I'll be there for you.
I want to take my scimitar. I'm going to go for this hand, and I'm going to chop.
Okay,
So,
yeah.
here
Roll
we
to
go.
hit. Yeah, that's a hit.
Okay.
He
so
will use
not
up his last action point to try to parry it, but with an 86 misses. So you will get a special. So it's special hit location damage.
Okay, so bleed's given my special.
Okay.
Yes, bleed's given special. Location will be, please be right hand.
That's a leg,
Oh,
I think.
that's the right leg.
Yeah.
When he swings around, obviously misjudge it. I just swing around and catch him in the upper thigh.
Would you right leg?
Damage-wise.
Yeah. Do some damage for me.
Damage wise is going to be a 6 damage on his right leg.
That knocks him down. So he needs to make an endurance roll. Da, da, da. 18. Da, 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 da. He's at hard at the moment, isn't he? So 18 out of 20. That's not going to make that roll. So he then, his leg collapses underneath him. He can't move it. So you sort of like slice across it. As he sort of like, he tries desperately to try to move it, but he can't. And he tries to parry it, and you just like slice across, catching a major muscle, and he sort of like buckles down onto sort of like one knee. And Bartleby, you're on 13.
It's time to bring out the big guns, the highest healing that Amriel can provide through this individual Barley. If it's a serious or minor wound, then this will work. If it's a major wound, then this is going to be a pointless endeavor, but I'm going to try. Amriel, bring this lady back to life. Here's my exhort roll.
She's just fainted. She's fine.
Yeah, just like migraine.
It just has a little scratch here when you look.
It might bruise later, though.
She just goes, ooh. So what does it do for a serious wound? It
heals a single body location back to its full hit points, provided the injury is no more severe than a serious.
Yeah, okay then. So you sort of like pray to Amriel, and you notice that the bleeding slowly stops, and the almost like there's sort of like the glow of moonlight that sort of like meshes back across as the skin mends underneath it. And we are and she comes alive. She regains consciousness on her 12.
Matilda's alive.
And yes, so final up to the top of the round. Combat turn 3. If anybody's got anything left, Jack hasn't. So Gulliver, you're next. If you still got one.
Is Matilda still holding the dagger?
No, when she fainted or went unconscious, she would actually have released it.
He wants to go over and pick it up wherever it's fallen.
Yeah, okay.
If you can see it.
It's probably on the opposite side of her because you would have been right-handed in any case, you know. But you can go and pick it up on 19. Right. That's fine.
Okay. Thank you.
And then Hazra, you're on 18.
I want to ask a question. I want to kill this guy, but I want to ask a question first. I want to try and compel surrender with my attack if it goes through, but I also want to ask at the same time, did he kill Matilda's father or the father and those girls? I want to just closure on this. So I'm going to do an attack. I want to be non-lethal. So I like hold. I'll swing if it connects. I will just hold it before it hits, but while compelling surrender.
Right.
Can I do that?
Yeah. So hang on, because non-lethal damage. there's actually rules for non-lethal damage.
So flat of the sword.
I'm sure. Pulled blows. Occasionally a character may wish to avoid maiming or killing an opponent. This is achieved by pulling a blow, limiting the force placed behind it, or striking with a less lethal part of the weapon. A pulled blow halves the damage inflicted on a successful hit. However, the intent must be pull blow must be stated before the attack is made, since it is near impossible to withhold a fully committed strike once it had been loaded. So that's fine. So you will do half damage.
Okay.
So first of all, so roll your to hit first.
Yeah.
So that hits. So
special is going to be compel surrender, and my location is 15, which will be right arm.
Okay.
And my damage will be, with my scimitar of death, will be a 3.
Yeah. Okay. So you pull the blow. And what's my resist for compel surrender?
It is.
Must be willpower, surely.
It is opposed roll willpower versus the original attack or parry roll.
So what?
It fails.
So what was yours? 27.
27. Yeah.
Okay. What is it? Sorry, willpower.
Willpower. Yeah.
There we go. No, he fails. So he sort of like slumps to the ground. He seems to be very distressed. He seems to be he just sort of like drops the bit of Matilda, sorry, into the swamp, and he just looks up at you. And he doesn't look at you, Hazra. He seems to be looking over at Matilda, and who sort of like is slowly sitting up, and he sort of like reach out his good arm that's not damaged, and he sort of like says, Melissa, forgive me, for I am in love with you.
Gulliver almost like he's behind. He's stand up. He's got the dagger, and he's behind. He's behind Hazra, and he says, he almost whispers to Hazra, "Kill it, Hazra. Kill it."
But she needs closure.
Matilda looks down at this slumped form, and as it's sort of like looking at her, and you see tears in its eyes, and you almost like notice almost like the boy like person that was once Jack, the teenage lad who was once desperately in love, and whose love was returned through Melissa. And Matilda looks at the boy's eyes, these almost like what appear now to be almost like crystal blue eyes, welling up with tears as he sort of like reaches out to her. And Matilda looks up, and Bartleby and Gulliver, you almost like see the tears welling up in her eyes as she looks at this sorry state of a beast, and she looks up and says, "You are a foul, disgusting beast that deserves no life in this world. You need to be put to rest, and this will be my revenge on my father that you killed in cold blood."
Hearing that, Hazra will do a coup de grace, just off head, throat.
Yeah, and you sort of like pull your. I just need you to roll it just in case you fumble it, which would be so funny.
So funny,
It's
yes.
funny.
I've got one.
Do some
I've got
stuff.
one luck point. No.
No, we
Let's
don't want to
keep
know
it
what
like one.
damage. That's like
Oh.
8. You have to take your first roll.
That's a crit. So happy.
You sort of like pull your sword, your scimitar back, and slice it across any part of major artery. And just at that point, the Jack sort of like sees the blow coming and looks at Matilda and says, "I will always love you."
The
And
money's in there.
and as the slice of the fern comes down, there's a slight gurgle as you chop through a major artery, and it opens his throat, and he slowly, the lifeblood drains out of him, and at all the time he just keeps his eyes fixed on
Hazra can't do anything quickly.
on Matilda.
No.
And just as the final lifeblood passes from him, you're not too sure, but you almost see a faint smile appear on his lips, and he just lets out his final words that says, "Always love you." And
But does it not say always and forever?
No.
Stalker.
And he just slumps to the ground, dead.
He must have been 100 and odd years old.
Well, that's why Gulliver said too.
That's why he probably looks like that, Hazra.
Yeah, that's why Gulliver.
You know,
The clue was
creepy old
somewhere.
dude.
The clue was.
Yeah, we can't see that because of our light sources. You have to pull it further on.
Oh, sorry.
yeah. Put him on. Jesus, there's another one.
Yeah.
Okay, so obviously you take your Matilda back to the to her abode, and she starts to recover. It's interesting that she seems to be somewhat disturbed about the whole situation and what's gone on, and she says to you, to each of you, she says, "You solved the mystery," she says, and as promised, she hands over another bag of coins, and she's all like, she says, "You solved the mystery as promised," and she hands out the pouch of coins and said, "Minus a certain amount, of course, for my involvement in this." And you leave her house, and you suddenly think she's deducted 3,000
Thank you, charge her for the heel.
from it, as you sort of like go back to your abodes. And so the sad story of Sewer Jack finally comes to an end. And yes, just so you know, years ago, Melissa fell in love with the stable boy Jack. However, Melissa's father, Garion Grime, who was a black sorcerer dabbling in necromancy, was furious, and so turned Jack into a ghoul, as you see.
Was I right
now.
then?
Well, I actually think last week at the end, Mr. Pickles actually said that he has been turned into something. So, and the rest of the things will fall into place now. So, Sewer Jack actually saw, you were right, Melissa returning, and kept searching for her, and seeing these people, these young girls with blonde hair and a medallion round their necks, and thinking they were her, not realizing how ghastly he looked, approached them. But then when they hated him and was revolted by him, then he flew into great rage and sort of like killed them, only to continue to search. So he started off in the slums, then did the harbour, and then actually made his way through Lindo when they were chased, and then up onto Gentry Hill, where he found the original entrance back to the house.
I had it so that he could only move every night, so that's why he was slowly getting closer, and there was like a murder every night.
He couldn't actually come out in the daylight because he would be recognized. But every time there was a murder of the young girls, he actually thought that Melissa had come back for him. And he's been living on detritus and dead things down here for, hundreds of years, living as an undead, but still being that young stable boy who is
it's really sad,
madly in love with Melissa. And then when he got back to the house, he suddenly saw that Gary and Grime was back. And
but it wasn't it. It was
because he was completely thrown. He had no idea how long he had been under here or whatever, and therefore killed him, thinking that he was going to free Melissa, to go back to him. But of course, Melissa was no longer Melissa. She was now Matilda. And somebody did say it. He actually, Melissa did teach Jack how to write. In order, and that's where their romance started off. And Sewer Jack has been living underneath Lindo all these years. And hence drunken people would see him now and again and talk about the story of Sewer Jack. And he was absolutely real. And only when Melissa's family came back, Matilda's family came back, he actually thought Melissa had come back to actually be with him.
Do you know, that's such a tragic story.
Yeah.
Well done.
And then that was it. That was the whole story of Sewer Jack. Right from the beginning. So the old woman was totally innocent. It was just a lead-in. The necklace was repeated over and over again. The blonde hair was repeated over and over again. And then the necromancy came in. That's what was in the room. That's what you found. There was options for you to do other things that you didn't actually pick up. But that's it. So the only thing that changed, just so you know, is that it was meant to be Hengist that led you to the house. You see, that was the way to get the house in and to connect you up with the Grimes,
the socialites,
and so everybody had their sort of like bit to play. And the interesting thing is, it is whether or not Matilda would have killed Jack. She would have killed him altogether.
I was surprised when Hadra made him surrender, because by that time I was feeling really sorry for. It was sort of like obvious that he, that's only really that he was staying alive for.
Oh yeah,
it was no type of life, and that's why Gulliver said, "Kill it." Because
just stop you there.
It rather than him.
Yeah, just stop you there. The reason I didn't kill him outright, which I could have quite easily done, was to get closure for Matilda to find out if for him to admit what he'd done.
Yeah, and I thought it was it's one of those tragic love stories that just sort of like gets to the point that, and just to let you know, it all started off because I wanted to have a ghoul in the campaign, the adventure, because
you had a picture of one.
No, well, the picture is straight from the
Slain
from the rule book.
Really?
It's exactly the same thing, and I loved it. And I've actually got a Canva. I plan everything out on Canva because I could do text boxes, and I've actually got it all set out. But his pic is like a mood board, so his pictures down at one side, and I had to be really careful with ages. You know, so it was the right number of greats. Coming backwards and forwards. So.
Do you know what I'd like to try in the Mythras setting? It's like a 7 days to die survival horde thing where we're trapped in somewhere with zombie hordes.
I don't think Mythras would work well with that, because half the thing about Mythras, I think, is to avoid combat.
It's true that, yes.
Because it's so lethal. And
yeah.
I really had no plan for the final encounter, apart from to make the connection. So I knew Matilda would not be happy because she lost her father, and she has no connection to this beast at all, so, but apart from that, but what I did know happened, if Matilda ever told Jack that she didn't love him, then the same thing that would happen in the previous murders would happen. He would then lose control and try to kill her, because he just can't. And then, of course, at the end, if anything, he was freed, from
which is good. But let's face it wouldn't be a bad thing Matilda died, because she was a bit of a bitch.
Yes, she's rich.
Yeah, that's true.
I think she is rich. I think the other thing is she was very purposeful.
Oh God, yeah.
I think she had a lot to prove, because she was now the woman,
the family head,
trying to get the trade businesses going.
And what I wanted to convey is this idea that she had a purpose. So she, if your influence role, Gulliver, that slowed her up, but it didn't stop her, It
was a very good roll at that point, though, because if she'd have darted ahead, we would have been like, come back.
Well, then I was thinking that when you eventually got there, at a matter of speed, maybe you just arrived as
she was talking to him.
Oh no, as he finishes off Jack. Jack finishes her off.
Yeah.
And that would have been there would have been turn to page 46 for that. UK Rim USB says, today was the first time I watched you all play Mythras, and I really loved it.
Thank you.
So that was my attempt.
I didn't speak to you at all. Shut up, silly cow.
Garish says, "Oh, this is so sad. You are a softie in Wills." And oh man, that reminds me much of some RP I had in Star Wars: The Old Republic. So that's the end of the story of Sewer Jack, a tragic love story that ended.
Come back, Jack.
In some kind, probably ended the best way it possibly could, because in the end he was actually released, and that was it. So, thank you for participating in that adventure. I hope everybody on the stream enjoyed it as much as I have enjoyed playing it. Hopefully, hopefully Longshanks EPG will be back with us in the next adventure. Just so you people know, let me just call up.
Is it next week that we're not playing because you're doing something?
No, it's the that's the week. That's like the 14th, I think it is.
Remember the 14th of November.
I have a feeling that it's. I will check. Just so you know, we had 4 sessions. So in total, that's, am I going on one?
It's 47 XP points per session.
1d4 plus 3 per session it is.
It's not that at all.
It's 47.
I can't
XP
remember
per session.
how much did you get for the last one?
3 per session was your agreed amount.
I think we were getting 1 per session.
Yeah.
What? I thought it was 3. I didn't get back to my many pages of notes.
It was 1 per session to begin with, but then I think it changed, didn't it?
I thought it was 3.
Okay.
So the DM. Do we have to do everything for you?
Yeah.
No, it's here. It's here. 10 per session.
That's it.
Hazard gets them all.
You get 10 per session, but you get a negative amount, which means
every time Haz was told to shut up.
Yes. Or my squeaking door.
So you so we've 4 sessions. So I will give you 5 experience rolls for the adventure.
Tight ass.
And then I will give you another. I'll give you another 3 for working it out. So that will be a grand total of 8, unless I have a change of. I don't have my last ones. I don't have the experience on here, but I think that the total. It's either going to be 8 or 10. So, but I'll have a check back on my other ones and see. I can't remember whether or not I said 1 or 2 per session. I think it's 1 or 2 depending on the session. But each session in this game hasn't been. It's been quite.
All I can hear is Medivac turning his pages.
So yeah, so we should be back next week.
So 18.
Cobweb.
I hope you all enjoyed that adventure, the story of Sewer Jack, in 4 parts. Yeah, so don't forget that if you've enjoyed the stream, then please consider liking, following, commenting, joining us, whatever. We will be back next week when the adventurers will go on a new quest. And what that will be, only time will tell. I will be back on tomorrow afternoon.
Up the adventure yet, then?
I haven't.
Yes, who's back?
I will
Sewer
be
Jack. Back again.
Do you want to? Can I just say that name just came to me one day, and I just thought, I just called him Sewer Jack, and it sounds like almost like the story of Sewer Jack sounded so.
It's absolutely brilliant when a name just comes to you.
I know.
Yeah.
I really like it.
So anyway,
I've stalked many women like that.
I will be back tomorrow at 2:00 for some Elder Scrolls Online. So please do come along and join me then. Until then, I would like to say to each and every one of you, please remember to be who you are and say what you think, because the people who mind don't matter, and the people who matter don't mind. Have fun, and we will catch you all later. And until then, happy dice rolling. See you all later. Bye. This video is sponsored by the Design Mechanism, the makers of Mythras. Mythras is a registered trademark of the Design Mechanism Inc., used with permission. All rights reserved.